Good morning, friends. Welcome to Sunday here at the CrossFit Games. As we have been all week, we're here at the Paper Street Coffee booth, who's been a great host for us and has been the case all week long. We've got Box Basics with us. Patrick, tell us about them.
It's the go-to footwear for gear and for everyday CrossFit athletes. Awesome selection, free and fast shipping. One of these days, whenever you move to the US, you can get free shoes,
Honestly, every single day you remind me that I don't reside in the US of A, and every single day I say the same thing, and that's like, why do you hate me so much?
Well, we'll get those visa.
Fast forward to next week, kind of has a P.O. box.
Exactly, in Nashville or wherever.
Just keep turning up to your place, PC. It's like, why is this stuff getting sent here? I just order all these weird things from Amazon.
Yeah, but it's free.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do love an Applebee's.
But Box Basics, it is free shipping. Exceptional customer service. Try them out today at shopboxbasics.com, and for a limited time, get 20% off your order when you use code what?
Friend. Yes.
Friend.
You want training shoes, you want lifting shoes, head over there. They carry all the big brands, Tier, Nike, Reebok, Strike Movement, you name it, they got it. Great prices, affordable, good selection.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it.
Yep. Sunday, last day.
Last
Night we had the last round of cuts, so we said goodbye to basically 25% of all three of the team individual men and women fields, and that leaves us with the top half of the qualifiers from this year's semifinals. And it's setting up to be a pretty special day because we're going to essentially be crowning new champions in every division.
Yeah, and looking at the leaderboard as well, it's kind of, particularly on the men's side, it's shaping up to be a really good battle on that last day. We only know one of the events for the individuals. Do we know any of the team events for tomorrow?
Yes, one came out.
One just came out.
So we've got one event for each division, which means it's kind of hard to pick who's going to be standing at the end of at the top of the leaderboard, because there is a bit of a points race. I think for the teams, though, it's kind of pretty sewn up. With Invictus up there, they seem like they'll be pretty challenging to beat. But for the men's, the women's, oh man, with so many unknowns, it could be a really interesting day of competition.
Well, let's talk about that team workout that was just introduced. It's called Muscle Up Logs.
That looks spicy.
Yeah.
That's
I saw
individual
that.
workout, isn't it?
Well, I think it's individual. Well, let's talk about the individual workout then.
Okay.
Still spicy,
Still
right?
spicy.
Still spicy,
Still
no
spicy.
matter what.
Yeah, muscle up in log is going to be 5-round workout, 7-ring muscle ups, and then a series of sandbags over a log. Get yourself over the log, carry the sandbag forward. And as Con was alluding to, what looked like a runaway freight train that was Roman Krennikov is now only leading Jeff Adler by 13 points. Yep. I'll set the stage for you guys. Every competition that Roman has done since he's come to the U.S., his kryptonite, if you'll say so, has been the ring muscle up workout, and it's prevented him from winning or taking second in every competition he's done. He took a little bit of a blow today. You know, the back half of the back half of the interval workouts didn't go great. Yeah. Then he did okay on the lifts in terms of executing his lifts, but it was a mid-teens finish against the field. Adler, very consistent as he always is, lifted strong as he always does, and closed that gap dramatically. Are you concerned about Roman fending him off today?
Absolutely. I think Jeffrey Adler on that first workout, the guy's shown himself to be good at those kind of the high gymnastic workouts. He always does so well in the open. That's why he was so impressive on kind of some of those faster pieces as well over the weekend. I think with the ring muscle ups coming up, I wouldn't be surprised to see him significantly eat into that, if not potentially overtake Roman in that first event. And from there as well, you've got a couple of other guys kind of closing in on that top three. Guys like Patrick Vellner, unbelievable at ring muscle ups as well. He's now sitting in 4th place. We spoke about this on day one, about kind of how you can have a few really bad finishes and over the course of the weekend, a few really high finishes. Put on an absolute clinic yesterday in the interval workout, sort of set the tone for the rest of the weekend, which looks like he's going to come back. He has that veteran capability as well. He's been there a bunch of times. I don't know. I can see him doing big things this morning on the ring muscle up workout, potentially pushing into that top 3 as well.
You mentioned setting the tone. I thought he set the tone in that 5K with that first time through. He was literally side by side by Roman. He looked up to the crowd and was just waving. And he was talking throughout that whole thing. Nice and relaxed. He finished second behind Hosta. But I mean, I think that was the moment that struck me, because he just looked so calm and relaxed. And that's, we've been talking about Adler's aerobic capacity.
Today, we were kind of saying, or 2 days ago, like we said, maybe there could be a home run for all 3 of those events, and that's exactly what Adler did.
I do want to talk about Chandler Smith, because he's in the run for a podium spot. And, you mentioned it, Con, that Brent Fikowski and Pat Vellner are closing the gap on this guy. But with 1 day left, we've seen him podium at a major competition before at the Rogue Invitational. Allie, do you think there's a chance that he holds on and takes a podium spot?
Oh, absolutely. I think, if from what we've seen this past season, like you can't count Chandler out. Like he has the ability to really have those home runs. And I think just across the board, he's also super consistent. I don't see him struggling with the one event that has been announced. And then who knows what those last two are going to be. It could be another log lift or something, like not exactly the log lift, obviously, but something like that where he can really hit that home run and just press the save button on that podium.
I definitely do think we see some strongman implements come up in one of the two last events. Like it's been shown up so many times on the final day of competition in the Coliseum, a heavy yoke, some heavy, some sort of like farmers, something like those lines. They love a strongman implement on the last day of the CrossFit Games. A sled.
Well, we did have a sled and alpaca. So
did.
The teams have the jerry cans too, so that could maybe be foreshadowing something that the teams
Last
are gonna
night,
do.
we saw the P-bars come back out.
Yep.
Would it just
that could be something for the.
Well, and there's no one better on the P-bars than Pat Vellner. So that's if you talk about a last day that does have high volume ring muscle up and parallel bars in the same day, then Vellner's going to be. I think it's going to be tough to keep off the podium.
And strongman stuff as well. He's unbelievable at his strongman implements too. The guy's great with a yoke, great with a jerry can. And
let's move a little bit down that list. There's a name right there, and I think this is our contender for Rookie of the Year. Someone that Bailey Martin.
yeah, he has been unreal. I think
That clean and jerk test.
he's so strong, man. I saw he opened quite on like how everyone else kind of seemed to go for a heavy, whereas with both lifts, he opened quite conservative and then took a huge jump. When he opened quite conservative, because I know he's a strong guy, he's a really strong guy and always has been, I was kind of like, man, like this is a huge gamble. But every time he went up and then he hit that second weight, like hats off, he has been killing it. And he has impressed me on so many events. The 5K was another one that he impressed me on massively. The interval one as well, he was moving so well in that. And this is a guy that's always typically excelled at the strength and the skill portions. Dude, I mean, look, see him and Jade both there in the top 10. Two of the boys. Like, I love to see it. And I think he's unbelievable at ring muscle ups. Dude's got 30 unbroken ring muscle ups. So he's going to be awesome tomorrow morning too.
I do want to bring up one thing that was kind of alarming, and maybe you guys might have some information about this morning, is BKG. Obviously, he snatched 95, clean and jerk 95. He deferred on both his final attempts on each one of those. Do we know what's wrong? I mean, obviously there's something wrong with him, but he's still in the top 10.
He's had a couple of little bits and pieces coming into the competition. I know he's got a great team with him at the moment working on him. And so, look, I'm hopeful that we will see him back out on the competition floor.
Yeah, I think that was the line of thinking is, check in with the competition team, see what's the minimum acceptable work requirement here, check those boxes, try to recover overnight, see what happens on the final day, And I think that we've already seen him do plenty of difficult and tough stuff and do it very, very well. So hopefully he's able to put it together for one more day because he's had a pretty good competition, all things considered.
Yeah, knowing the things that he's got going on as well, I think the first workout he's going to be able to complete. The ring muscle ups particularly are going to be absolutely no problem for him. So I think we see him at least take the competition floor.
Brian, I'm going to ask you, who made the cut that surprises you? And Allie, I'm going to throw the opposite question to you.
Oh gosh, sorry, Allie. Well, I have to give some love to Colton Mertens.
Yes.
People have been critical of my assessment or ranking or prediction of him over the years, but I think that people also understand that I have tremendous respect for this guy. I'm so impressed and proud of what he's been able to accomplish, given everything, from the work that he does outside of training for this, taking care of the farm that he does, from the problems that he's had with his health this year with autoimmune disease. He had this great quote in an interview with you, Patrick, following semifinals that said, the story of this year for me is to just keep fighting. And he's fought his way all the way into the final day of the CrossFit Games, and I can't say enough good things about him.
Dude, there's a tenacity to watching him compete. I was watching him on the interval workout today, climbing over those high boxes and hitting the rower, and yesterday on the ski, and just the tenacity is the best word. We have a great word in Australia, mongrel, and he just has this mongrel in him when he was attacking those workouts that sandbag ski typically would favor a bigger athlete. Watching him win that, dude, I got goosebumps. He was so impressive out there on those events. Really happy to see him make the cut as well.
Oh, and another sandbag with some ring muscle ups. Might come out of the gates hot. If he somehow clawed into the top 10, that would be, for me, maybe the story of the week.
I will say those logs each round get taller, so I don't know the exact height of the last log. Just putting that out there.
Did you see him getting over those boxes? He'll be fine. Mate, that guy was flying over that box.
Yeah.
So, Who's surprising you that didn't?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the women's side.
Yes.
There's quite a few names that stood out to me. You know, at this point, all the women, all the athletes are super talented, but Christine Colin-Brander, even though she had a great showing on the Olympic total with a second place, did everything she could there. She still just dropped outside the cut line. Amanda Barnhart, that was a really big surprise to me. Just seeing her drop out, same, like super strong athlete. I know she's been working super hard and is like a games vet contender at the top there. So those were really the two that stuck out to me, especially after having that big lift today.
Yeah.
Let's work our way. Let's work our way up the women's
Okay,
leaderboard
let's work
instead
up
of
the
down.
leaderboard.
Right at the cut line, you have what to me are two great stories.
Yeah.
You have Kelly Baker, who I think everyone at this point realizes she was done on Friday night.
Yeah.
Had a burger
got
and beer.
Burger and beer. She said. She told us all.
11:20 p.m. She got a text message saying, "Hey."
She shows up
reached
on
out.
Saturday morning, runs well, which we knew she's a good runner. Climbs 7 spots. She's within 11 points of the cut line.
Yeah.
She does pretty well in the interval workout. She's keeping, I think she was inside the cut at that point. She lifted great, and she ends up missing it by 1 spot again.
Yeah.
But
So I hope she had her burger and beer last night too, and we'll see what happens today.
Exactly.
Hopefully, we might get another.
beers,
We might get another plot twist today for Kelly Baker.
but you know, the cool thing is, as great as that story would have been, you have in another way a pretty good story in Shelby Neal making the cut line. This is an athlete that
You were really high on her last year.
I think she was fit enough to be at the games in 2022. The legless rope climbs kept her out, and sure, you can say, nope, you know, that was the test that came up and you didn't make it. But her fitness is good enough to be here, and I have thought that for a year or two now. And she's shown over a variety of tests to have the fight in her. To get that last spot, you can't do that without fighting, without calling points and stealing them here and there throughout 3 days of competition. She's earned the right to be here on the last day as well.
Absolutely. Mongrel. It's a great word. Start adding it in.
But we have a fight. It looks like it's not clear cut. I think, well, actually it is. It seems like Emma pretty much might wrap this up.
She made a statement yesterday.
She definitely did on the lifts.
Yeah.
Were you expecting those lifts to come out of Emma?
No, I would, and it's not. I won't say that I wasn't expecting her to lift well, but I thought that given the field that was remaining, that it would be impressive if she was able to get into the top 10 on the lifting portion. She had a flawless execution in, I think, not just 7th place, which allows her to maintain about 50 points on Laura heading into the day. Laura is known for having big days of competition. There's only 3 events left that we know of. One of them's on the table. Emma Lawson's as good as they come at ring muscle-ups. Now, Laura's great too, but even if Laura finds a way to win this workout, I don't see her making too much of a dent on that lead. She's going to need some good events to come out. Otherwise, I think Lawson might be taking this.
Yeah, I don't see anything coming up that Lawson is going to really struggle with. At this point, she's really proven herself across the board with the strength. We know she's great at gymnastics. We know her engine is there, and so...
And this is where she started fading last year, because everyone remembers she wore the leader's jersey as a rookie early in the week. But with the big weight test with the back 9, with the alpaca weighing so heavily on the kettlebells last year, and she started sliding out of those contending podium spots. Is it possible we see a really heavy something that allows her to take a bottom half finish and Laura to close that gap?
I mean, anything is possible because we don't know the 2 tests. And I think at this point in time, hey, Laura, if there's someone you don't want breathing down your neck, whether it's a 50-point buffer or anything else, on the final day of the CrossFit Games, it's Laura Horvath. She went 3 from 3 last year on the final day. That is, look, Emma doing incredible, but yeah, that's a scary person to be breathing down your neck when they're so known for bringing it on that final day. Moving down from there though, what about Ariel Lowen in 3rd? She's been incredible this weekend, even on the lifting as well. She just executed so well, kept herself in that 3rd place spot. Certainly not someone I necessarily had on the podium, but man, what a cool showing from her.
I'm just going to look at the top 10 as a whole before we get to Ariel specifically. I had thought coming in here that North America East women and European women would dominate this thing. But the top 3 women from North America West are all in the top 10. Ariel's sitting in 3rd, Kazan's sitting there in 6th, and Katrin David's daughter, who we can get to maybe if we want, is in 10th. And I think that I didn't really give credit to those women out there. Both Ariel and Alex super well. Were you expecting this? Is this something that's surprising? And can they hang on? Can one of them get a podium spot here?
I mean, I definitely know Alex a lot better than Ariel. from my perspective, I knew that Alex was going to be in where she's at now, just because I see her in training every day. She's been filling those little holes that she had, and her execution has been really good. You know, this is her second year at CrossFit Games, so kind of, you know, erasing some of those rookie mistakes and just feeling, like I was talking yesterday, at ease and just like comfortable where she's at. And I think she's finally stepping into that athlete who we all have seen who she is, and she's really realizing it for herself. And so I think just having that relaxed attitude all weekend going into these last few events, she's, you know, her and Ariel on that weighted muscle up event last semifinals, they tied for first. And so they're going to both hammer that first event that we know tomorrow. And then, yeah, we'll see what comes out. And again, just like Emma, I don't see them having anything that's like so big of a weakness that they could really slip down that leaderboard. So it's definitely going to be exciting.
No, and Ariel, you know, she's basically, since winning the Granite Games 2 years ago, she's just continued to impress people. She just continued to surprise. She hasn't had a lapse in performance. And, you know, she's got a decent like cushion coming into today that it might be hard to overtake given the consistency she's shown. If she's able to finish on the podium this year, I mean, we just keep saying it, but the storylines this year are
they're incredible.
So many of them.
And I think coming into the games this year with the absence, obviously, of Tia Mal, and then on the men's side, it's seeming to be a little bit more open based just on the results from the semi-finals. It was always setting up for there to be some cool storylines. What those storylines turned out to be, man, like, I don't know if you could have picked all of them, but it's setting up for a really exciting final day.
You mentioned training partners. Let's talk about Annie, someone that you know. What can we expect for her today? She's in 7th right now, but you've seen her. You've seen the Ice Queen. I mean, what's gonna?
I mean, I caught up with her just before we came over here and the rest of the crew, and it's, you know, it's the last day. It's everything on the table and go. And I know she's been doing this for so long. She's not going to want to leave everything out on the competition floor. I think the position that she's in right now, you know, a top 10 finish, is in 7th at the moment. A top 10 finish, obviously going to be fantastic for her, but that's not the goal that she had coming into this. So I think we can expect to see her rolling the dice on a few bits and pieces today. And she's got that fight in her. She certainly has that mongrel in her. Say that term over and over again.
That's a new word.
And, you know, obviously hugely biased, but absolutely rooting for her to have a big day today and for some stuff to fall in her favor with those last 2 workouts that get programmed. But hey, she has no easy task to climb that leaderboard. The standard of the girls ahead of her and that gap between the top 3 and everyone else. Let's see how the day pans out. But yeah, it's you know, it's going to be a tough fight.
We know that being a veteran, having experience, and what that can do for someone on the last day is a critical thing. In the case of the women, there are no rookies in the top 10. So if you want to gain some points or close a gap or pass some people by, like, you're going to have to go out there and do exactly that. You got to take a risk. You got to go for it. With the cuts and the points, there's bigger gaps between places. So like, it can happen. We can see those big moves, but it's not going to be easy on the women's side because there's no one coming in without this experience.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing. I mean, which is crazy to think that these women in that top 10, a lot of them aren't rookies, are veterans, considering the age of a lot of these girls as well. And you have that spread, like Annie and Kat, that have been doing it for so long. You kind of got like Laura, Gabby, those guys have been doing it for a while. And then some of these other girls, like, they've been doing it for a while, but they're so young, and the future that they have ahead of them, my God, it's incredible.
Anything else to talk about that sticks out to you in an individual, men or women?
I think I want to just give a shout out to Bethany Flores for just managing everything she has with her own health, training, the difficulties she's had the last 2 seasons. I would say she was the biggest wild card coming into the weekend, so much so that I just kind of put her right in the middle because you know, you don't know what you're going to get. For her to manage all of that and be there on the last day, I think is a really cool story, and hopefully fulfilling for her fans as well that missed out on seeing her 2 years ago and get to see her complete a total CrossFit Games this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great just watching her last night under that final event. Like, yeah, she wasn't putting up the biggest numbers, but the crowd recognized that, and they were giving her loud ovations for all of that. And I think that kind of like just reaffirmed her. It's kind of like, it just, I caught up with her afterwards. She was out in the media area with Bella, her dog, and it was just yeah, she just seems in really good spirits and very appreciative. Whereas and you know
Yeah.
her personally. And
That's what I was just going to add is like this year specifically, like she's just in such a good headspace. And I think that has just shown throughout the weekend. Like she has been very consistent with her performances. You know, everybody's going to have those ups and downs, but every time I see her out there on the floor, you can just tell she's so dialed in with her body and her plan. And she's just sticking to that and really trusting herself. And that just shows really clearly, and it's paid off now.
She looks happy out there too.
Yep.
It's always big smile on her face, which is really cool.
I think just seeing her in the back locker room area, she's engaging everyone, and it just, you can see that veteran experience and that she fully appreciates it, like you said.
Amazing.
All right, let's transition over to the team.
Yeah.
As we all do as we get a little older.
Yeah, exactly. I want to start off with that first event yesterday. Invictus made a statement, in my opinion. I mean, in that muscle up Bob. I mean, it was a race. You were there. You witnessed it with me. I mean, tell me what you thought. Did they make a statement that first event?
The shuttle one? The power snatch
No, the
sprints?
muscle up Bob one.
I didn't actually see the muscle up Bob, to be honest with you. I saw the muscle up.
That was actually the middle event.
Yeah,
They
the
had
middle,
those.
okay.
So I saw the muscle. They seemed to make a statement on that one as well, though. And it was in that second half. Like obviously there was some great scores put up in the first one. Nashville proven seeming to run away with it, but on that second one, man, like just went for it. I'm super impressed with both Josh and Devin's cycle speed on that bar. Like when Josh got to that bar, it was really cool to watch. Like he was ripping that thing from the ground to overhead to solidify that win there for them. I don't see anyone catching them today. I just don't. I think that they're going to need to have a particularly poor finish, and given the nature of the field, given the different given that it's only 20 teams now, I can't see them finishing anywhere. Like even if they have a blowout, I can't see it being worse than sort of 5th or 6th.
Which they had last night, and they still have a comfortable lead, almost 50 points.
I just don't see that happening on all 3 of the events. So I think, looking at that leaderboard, I think it's a good race for second, Navy Blue and Nashville, but I think it could be a bit of an Invictus runaway at this point.
Talk about races. Getting into that, yeah, let's talk about it.
Story on the bubble. The story on the bubble. Again, the Rhino CrossFit dogs.
Surviving again. Yeah. True underdogs.
True underdogs. I love that. So, yesterday they were in 21st going into the final for the day, and it wasn't necessarily going to be a home run for them. And they went out there and just executed,
Went full send on that Echo bike.
No, I'm talking about yesterday, the dips.
Yeah, the 2 days
yes,
ago,
yeah.
the P-bars, yeah.
So for the P-bars, they went out there, executed to their best ability. Not many teams finished that one, so it was a little bit confusing to know how many reps teams had left, and then they just kind of waited. They ended up, they were in 21st. They beat the 2 teams ahead of them, but it was a pretty big point spread, so they were basically just hoping that enough teams came in between them, and they did. And so they're here for the final day. And it's the story, the cuts, there's mixed, opinions on those, but it sure does create a hell of a story and a fight to get into that next day.
Yeah, I mean, the cuts, all the excitement we've seen from cuts, has that changed your opinion on cuts a little? Because obviously you've been a proponent, or actually not proponent, opposer, is that a word? Opposer?
Well,
Opponent.
the main reason that I am not traditionally in favor of the cuts is because it's so hard to get here to begin with, and especially when you have athletes or teams that are coming from parts of the world that don't often get to compete against the traditional names that we see in North America and Europe. Yeah. And for me, it's hard to assess how fit the men are in South America or the women are in Asia or wherever they're coming from at the level that we're wanting them to see them at the CrossFit Games if I don't see the whole test. From the athlete side, just the commitment to getting here is so much that I feel for them if they don't get to do the whole thing once they make it. Yeah. From the other perspective of the drama of it, of the storylines that are more meaningful on Friday and more meaningful on Saturday than they would be otherwise, there's definitely some compelling things that happen there. It makes Sunday so much meaningful for the ones that are able to get through. So I can understand it from that side. And I mean, Patrick, you're putting me in a tough spot, but like I can see it both ways.
Yeah.
But in terms of an exciting weekend, I think the cuts have contributed to having some excitement here.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I can speak to coming here from Australia as many times as I have. It's
You're from
like,
Australia?
yeah, I know it's a long way, huh? The accent's a dead giveaway. But like for Jake Douglas, for example, like that guy's been clawing away at getting himself to the CrossFit Games for so many years. He's been doing this sport for so long. He left his family to come over here and to prepare for it. Let's look at last night's event, for example, with the max lift. That would have been his real opportunity to kind of have a big crack on that world stage. It can cost upwards of $10,000 to come here from Australia, minimum. And that's if you don't got any, if that's without help from sponsors, if you haven't been doing it for a long time. Coming over here to spend enough time in advance to acclimatize and stuff like that, that just adds to the cost as well. When you look at that amount of money spent, you know, he could have had an opportunity to at least make, you know, I don't know if he was going to win it, but let's call it $2,000 to take a top 3 finish, $2,000, $1,000 to make a top 3 finish in that lifting event tonight. Yeah, it does. It hurts to see that. However, I agree. And this isn't the recreational games. This isn't a local competition. It's the pinnacle of the sport. Professional sports inevitably are not fair at the end of the day. Like they try to be as fair as possible, but they're not always going to be because shit happens. So yeah, I think I understand the cuts, but yeah, I feel for those guys.
Yeah, and I feel like CrossFit has kind of made a statement on like the cuts are here to stay, but I will say like the actual execution of them I think can be tightened up. And I've heard some sentiments from inside of CrossFit too that they agree with that. Like what happens if they make a cut and then the very first event the next day a team withdraws because or three or has an injury or something like that. So there are some gray areas where it's like, oh, that I can see it from both sides. So not an easy thing.
What I do know about Adrian Bosman is that he takes this very seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got to work with him in the run-up in 2022. I got to see the evolution of what his process was in 2023, and I have every reason to believe that he'll take all of the things that happened this year into account with the same level of seriousness that he did last season in an effort to find the ways to smooth those things out.
Yep.
I just wanted, there's something I forgot to do the other night. I wanted to recognize Cape CrossFit Wolfpack from South Africa. A lot of people picked them to finish dead last. They were a fill-in and they finished 31st, and I wanted to just like congratulate them and that community. I mean, obviously we look at South Africa as one of those growing regions, and they surely did represent the South Africa and African region altogether, and you know, bravo to them. Also the CrossFit Marvel, they got a really good community there in Asia as well, so in Korea. So I wanted to just send some props out to them. So
Let's go.
we got a crazy day, last day. Swing on by the Paper Street Coffee booth, get some coffee. Check out Vendor Village. It's there's still a lot of stuff going on. Usually that last day, they're usually putting out some deals to get rid of some stuff. You know, you might get a bunch of t-shirts for, I don't know, $20 or whatever. What do you got planned today?
Once again, have a very relaxing. It's not going to be a very relaxing day. It's going to be a stressful day watching my friends fight for those top spots. And but yeah, honestly, I'll be just running coffee between Starbucks and wherever Yummy Chicken is, and other than that, enjoying the last day of fitness.
And what about you? You actually been quite the busy person for B.Friendly this weekend.
Yeah, I guess I'm a photographer now or something like that. Everybody's like, oh, when did you become a photographer? I was like, today. I just started. But it's been really fun. Actually, I've had a really good time, and it's crazy how quick the learning curve is, because I'm like, oh, my photos 2 days ago, not very good. But today I was taking some good. I was like, dang, I took these. So that's been fun. I did stop by Paper Street yesterday. Excuse you, bless you. I did stop by Paper Street yesterday for the first time, and my mind was blown. This is like the coffee shop, so I will definitely be here many times today, getting some refills on my cold brew, and might be hitting a workout. Might be, just bouncing around.
Cheering on.
Come say hi. Cheering on the dogs, 100%.
Yep. And what about you, Brian?
Yeah, last day, I really am proud of the strides that the broadcast team has taken going forward. Obviously, with the inclusion of the ESPN coverage, there's some nuance to that that involves a lot of planning. We've had more meetings than years past to try to bring the best coverage possible, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job on that front, which I'm happy about. The competition has been great, and as much as I'm working hard, I'm also enjoying seeing what these athletes can do, the way that they're competing, the way that they fight. Every workout, there's someone that does something that's incredible, and I'm happy that the world at large is getting to see it. I mean, I have a lot of friends and family that know I do this, but they don't watch it that often, that text me over the last couple days and have said, hey, I was watching this on ESPN, and asked me a question, made a comment, made an observation, and CrossFit posted this thread. I think it was
That's where
on
the
Saturday, about
Yeah.
you know, this guy who's a CrossFitter being in a bar amongst a bunch of non-CrossFitters who were watching it, getting exciting during Helena and talking about, hey, we should try that out. And at the big picture level, that makes me feel as good as anything else.
Huge, absolutely huge what that's going to do for the sport.
Well, obviously we talked about Box Basics and we talked about Paper Street, and none of this would be possible without them, but there's other sponsors out there that made this all possible. We want to send a shout out to LSKD, who's been gearing us all up. You know, obviously, yeah, LSKD. Oh, it's amazing. They've been gearing up the whole team, and believe me, I'll talk about the team later. Perform Athletics out of Kuwait. We want to send a shout out to them. They were able to sponsor us as well. Yeti for giving these amazing Be.Friendly Yetis. Pretty nice. And obviously Paper Street and Element, they sponsored us, as well as I think Jimmy John's. They didn't sponsor us, but we got a bunch of Jimmy John's. But then we also want to send a shout out to the crew. We put together a team, a Be.Friendly team, including these two. They jumped in last minute to help me and Brian out. We thought it would be great, so we appreciate all the love you send us. If you see any of the guys running around with the Be.Friendly crew, stop, thank them, and yeah, and just tell them to be. Huh? What? Unless it's gone. But with that being said, be friendly, our friends.